be laid back, but I'm not. I know stupid, you know, and I think you thought I was dumb. And that might have caused some consternation because I think you thought I was ignorant or indifferent, which I'm not. I'm just hyperactive. Anyway, point of the story is you tried to trick me with this thing and to reopen some wounds of being misunderstood. So let me tell you a little bit about my past and how this kind of sucks and what we can learn from it. I was in special ed when I was in the 5th grade. And I was in between special ed and regular school, and I hated it because I just was like in between spaces, and I found that I could actually have an advantage being in between places. I was able to play hooky and get out of school because I thought I was in special ed and they thought I was in a regular class. So I would take the elevated train downtown and hang out and check out like the model shops and the Marshall Field's train store and get a hot dog, and then get back in time for swimming team practice. And that went on for weeks before they noticed that I was missing, and I had these great little adventures. And that was all great and fun. And I'm well traveled. We went to Europe every summer, so it's not like I haven't been around, which I think you think I haven't. But anyway, so I did those great things and had that fun, and then things went from bad to worse. I had to go to this absolutely awful school, the Ashlock Learning Center, and they needed my past as a guy who was like cutting out and going on these adventures. Well, they thought I was like some sort of autistic kid who was like, oh, I'm just gonna wander off and, you know, without any awareness. Man, I was probably more on my game then than I am now, because my like cognitive skills of planning were so good that I could take that, I could cut out a class at the right time, take the train, time the train out. Sometimes I went into the bad neighborhoods, and that got a little dicey, but I like the adventure, and then get back for swimming practice. So I was capable there and had those adventures, and I saw Pimps, which I really liked a lot, and that influenced the whole fashion that I'll tell you about, but I didn't know they were Pimps. Point of the story is kind of fun because I had these great, well, I made the best of a bad situation, and then things got lousy for me. I went to this Ashlock Learning School where they were mean and abusive, like I feel you were towards me, because they didn't understand. I would go to the bathroom and they would chastise me, and I have a fast metabolism and I eat a lot, so they would like monitor me in the bathroom, and then they would be like really mean and abusive and say things like, you can't be in the bathroom that long, because see, they were afraid that I was like gonna wander off downtown, and here I am like 11 and 12 years old, and I already know like how to get around the planet, or at least like downtown a little bit. So I'm not like that autistic kid they thought I was, but they were treating me in such a fashion, and then they were saying mean things about me and treating me, so that really sucked. And that reminded me of that. But which kind of brings me to, you know, the ebbs and flows of life. That was a bad time, and this was a bad time, and a lot of good things came from it, as I think we will conclude with some of the good things that can come from this. And but I have to make another point here and kind of see it from your perspective. So look, I understand that that you, like those teachers who were mean to me, were just trying to do their job because they had the wrong impression. But it should never have happened that way, and it was trickery. And I got to get to that. Let me do that. About ill-gotten gains. And I'm going to take the piss out of you right now, because of the way that went down, and it was as if I could see it coming. You know, it was like I play a lot of tennis, and when I play with my chubby cousin Ricky, I can always wait for it and see it coming, and I could see this coming from you in the same way, that he kind of leans back and opens the face of his racket for like a lob. And what you did was you made a quick serve at me, just like the renewal was a quick serve, and it wasn't fair play. This wasn't fair play, and I could see it coming, and it went like this. Your head goes back, you gasp for air, and you're like, Mark, you're doing this and that, and you like go into like another world that's not reality, and then you put a smile on your face and you try to reel it back in, and it's like just like that lob shot, you can see it coming, and so you like run to the net, and you don't want that in your game, at least not with me, because that's not appropriate and it's hurtful. So there it is. I broached on it. It's more of an eloquent essay if you can read, because I can't read it already. So, so these things happen, but it's time to deal with it and to be better people and bring out the good. And I can understand it. Those were some bad times I went through. At my graduation from the Colorado College, I had, like you, worked very hard and as in enjoying the fruits of my labor, and had some situations that all cause harm to others and collateral damage as a result of my behavior, which I think this is a result of your behavior, has caused some collateral damage to me, and I'll mention what happened with me, and we'll find the resolve, and we'll live happily ever after. But first let me say this. Okay, so I busted my ass to go from these special ed classes to be in, have my degree in the bag at the Colorado College, so I coasted my senior year. I dropped off the swim team, and I said, you know what, I'm going to enjoy my life. I only had one class left to graduate. So I went on adventures in my little Triumph Spitfire, and they went bad. Like I skidded out and hit a post box and blew that off the post. But I owned up to it, and I left my number with like 20 bucks in the post box on the ground. Because when you do something wrong, it's just proper that you acknowledge it. And I did that, but that led to a host of other little situations that were kind of comical, where I put the car in the shop and I rented a Fiaro, and then I'm with my friend Jill and I'm parking the Fiaro in my home that was isolated with only one tenant, Sally, in the bottom. So I would drive up to the lawn very fast, and there was dew and there was a heavy car, and I slid right into the heavy brick wall into her living room. Well, that was a lousy thing to do, so I gave her all my Mrs. Field Cookie Club every week to try and make amends, as you know, as well as pay for the repairs. Well, that was a funny one, because I had taken some what I call MWDs, Nazi weapons of destruction, that I wasn't so impressed with. I had a 6-pack of my dad's Lugers that he took from World War II that I brought into my home because we're in the West and we would have this little shooting gallery. Well, that was where I drove into the brick wall, so we moved that upstairs, and then I didn't shoot my friend, but I shot a bottle out of his hand, and I didn't think these bullets were that great. They didn't have much pop, but it broke the bottle and it hurt his head, and so we took him to the hospital and I made reparations. Well, then I didn't know guns, so I was with a BB gun with my friend Justin and JJ, and then I couldn't believe that this little tiny pellet could break a window, because I had these 9mm bullets, and we even bought new ones that didn't seem that great. Anyway, I said, there's no way this bullet can break your window, so I shot his window out, so I paid for it. So anyway, you know, and you do something wrong, and you own up to it, and that's the best way. And now I did some things wrong from your standpoint. Not that the acts were wrong, but the impact was wrong for you, and had we communicated, we could have solved it. Because I am nothing but acquiescent and amiable to making a smooth sailing with people whom I care about. And if you have a source of consternation with the spa, and of course many people will attest that I'm none of those lewd and fastidious things, but as a swimmer and a locker room guy and a hyperactive, I whip off my clothes and throw in the locker and grab a towel and I make that stuff naked. And also, anyway, none of that stuff. But if that's, I found a better spa, and a nice gal at the cooking class, and I've always had the proper humor at the cooking classes. I have a friend of mine, and she is a member, and I have great humor with making us sexual innuendos regarding vegetables, and she had the best one. And see, I like to bring out the best in people, and we've kept it at a low volume. We're like, I don't like these vegetables. Well, that's quite a carrot. And she said, well, my favorite is fingerling. So we had these nice times, but you all had the impression that I was like doing a Mark show, which this is a Mark show, but you didn't want that. So I said, yeah, thanks for mentioning it to me. That's the last thing I ever want. So if there's anything I can do, and I'm glad to, but let's talk about it on the same channel. I'll wrap it up with the way I like to wrap it up, with the importance of communication and being on the right channel. I used to fly this plane a lot. It's my favorite T-34 Mentor, and I had a ball with it. But the Air Force, it was an Air Force plane, and they gave me a lame one because it didn't have this little gas cap. It didn't have the O-ring on it, so all the gas siphoned out. And I was making touch-and-go landings out in Colorado at Front Range, but I got the airplane from the Air Force Base of Buckley Field, and I'd taken off, and I was heading back to Buckley, and you know, I'd switched the radios over to Buckley Tower, and then the engine starts running off, and I'm like, you know, I don't know what the call sign was, but I said the call sign. I said rough running engine, making a straight in approach for runway 27. They're like, well, you need fire equipment, and that should have caught me, but I was like, no, no, I got this. And I didn't want to switch the tanks because it was still running, and so I landed the thing, put my hand in, blow and dry, switched over the tank, flew back to the Air Force Base, and they were freaking out because they were expecting a big fireball, because we were on different channels, and we got to get on the same channel. I was on the same frequency, and I hope we can have a